Greetings, Taku Faithful. Thank you for joining me again this week. Once again, it's Larry Williams, OAW Commander-in-Chief, and I'm here to bring you all yet again another Discussion of the Week video segment right here on Otaku Assemble Weekly. And as always, I'm here to bring you the latest in this week's Discussion of the Week video segment. And this week's discussion topic comes from Nime Bowler, who asked, Discussion of the Week: social media and the effect it has on teenagers and prepubescents. Do you think the introduction of social networks such as Twitter and Facebook have impacted the lives of people today? Do you think this has a positive or negative impact? Could our current generation deteriorate further than it already has? Okay, so my thoughts on social media. Now, first off, I want to preamble this discussion with a bit of confusion I had when I first saw the discussion topic, because I thought I had already addressed this topic in a previous video, and I think what had happened was that my overall opinion on social media, in a way, it's kind of my same view on things like video games, and I know I've discussed it in multiple live streams, and I might have even addressed this in a couple of Q&As, but I figured since I couldn't find a video that I had already done addressing social media specifically, that if nothing else, if someone hadn't already heard my opinion on this, then it's a pretty good idea to, have a video that people can always go back and reference for the topic. So pretty much what I want to say is, some of you, number one, some of you might have already heard me talk about this, and number two, I don't know if my view on the topic is anything different than what you might have already heard from someone else. So I want to preamble this discussion with those two points. Now, social media and the effect it has on teenagers and prepubescents. How do you think the introduction of social networks such as Twitter and Facebook have impacted the lives of people today? Well, here's the thing. Social media, social networks, they have been they are this generation's technological craze. And this is what I mean. I would argue what? Since the last 30 to 40 years? Hell, this might even go further back than that. But every generation has had some type of technological craze, right? The new hot thing that just takes the world by storm, and everybody has to have it. And every generation has something like that, and the youth of that generation are kind of the ones who are the most engaged in said technology, whatever it may be. So before social networking, there was just the internet, meaning websites, forums, chat rooms. Do you guys remember chat rooms? Do you guys even do chat rooms anymore? Yeah. Before social networking, that's what it was. It was forums and chat rooms and pretty much the internet in general. Before that, it was video games. And when I say video games, I mean home consoles, right? Home consoles were the big thing before that. Before that, what was it? Well, okay, you had the arcade, and then you also had the music video boom. So, and also the whole media boom, the VHS Betamax. You had that going on in the mid to late 80s. And then I can't really go that far back. I don't even know what was before that. What, the 8-track maybe? the cassette tape and maybe the 8-track. So anyway, but my point is this: every generation has this technology that takes the world by storm. That everybody is just so, everybody gets in, and the youth of that time are the ones who get the most engaged in it. That's just the truth of the situation, because I've just given you all multiple examples of when this has happened before in the past. Now, do you think this has a positive or negative impact, right? And then could our current generation deteriorate further than it already has? You see, that last comment about could our generation deteriorate? Deteriorate, meaning that something is decaying. Something is falling from grace. Something is deteriorating from what it once was, right? That has a bad connotation to it. That automatically means that statement automatically means that that social networking would be a bad thing. Well, guess what? It's the same argument that was made about the internet, about video games, about music videos, about home media. Hell, there was even a time where it was made about comic books. That comment has always been made about whatever the big cultural boom is at the time. So with social media, it's no different. I'm talking about the reaction is no different. But do I think social media has positive or negative effects? It has both. What are the positives of social media? Well, people are more connected than they have ever been. Just from personal experience, from me being on YouTube, some of my best friends, both online, but also some of my best friends now, I've never even met in person. We interact over the internet. Case in point, like my man Hugo. Man, I met Hugo online about 2 years ago, and I met him because he did an opening for my video back when I was doing anime and manga reviews. And so me and him started talking, and we started chatting, and now I talk to Hugo about everything under the sun, and he's my go-to editor for all the writing I do now. You see what I'm saying? Maine. And Hugo's all the way in Detroit. Maine is in Philly. Ronnie is in Georgia. Game Addict is in Georgia. J-Mans is in the UK. Zip is in Chicago. Melina's in New York. Kayla's in California. All of these friends I've met online, and we're scattered all about the country, and with J-Man all over the world. And then I got freaking fans and viewers all over the freaking globe, right? But we're able to connect with one another through YouTube, which is trying to be more and more like a social network. But then also, my Facebook page, my Twitter page, all that jazz. That's a positive. It's never a bad thing to open up channels of communication between people, because prior to, I want to say in a large part, prior to the internet, and especially prior to the telephone, oh man, communicating cross country, overseas, was damn near impossible. Everything had to be written in a letter, and then it would take weeks before the letter would even get there, and even more weeks before you would get a reply. Now everything's faster, everything's instant. So now you can message on Facebook and Skype with people simultaneously across the globe. That's all positives. But that also opens up some negatives, like cyberbullying was never a problem before the internet. People send celebrities, hate mail and death threats. And yeah, you had that before, but they were all letters. And if you got a letter from someone you didn't know, you could just burn it or tear it up or throw it away and never even read it. But now stuff gets sent to your emails, to your Facebook page, where not only you, but anybody who has access to your page can see, you know. So yeah, that's a setback, because that's people using something that should necessarily be a good thing, communication, and using it to promote negativity, violence, and stupidity. But that's going to happen with any type of communication channel, regardless of what it is. Whether it's social media, whether it's blogging, whether it's video blogging like YouTube, you're going to have that with any type of communicational media you have. So, other negatives about social media, the fact that kids don't want to go outside nowadays. You know, I've talked about this. I know I've talked about this in the past. I know that for a fact. No, I mentioned this in the past. But yeah, kids don't like to go outside nowadays, you know. They like to stay indoors, and they like to be on the internet all day. But we ran into the same problem when video games came to a home console. Because when video games first came out on the scene, when they were strictly in arcades and stuff, it was a social outing to go out and play in the arcades. When the home console came, the arcade system damn near vanished completely off the earth. I only know of a few arcades that are even still open. So that damn near collapsed. And then everyone was so focused on staying indoors, you know, kids weren't going out to even play video games anymore. But with social media, it's become even worse, because now it's not like kids are going to each other's houses to engage in social media. They're not. They don't have to. You know, social media is on every device that has an internet connection. Laptops, notebooks, cell phones, PDAs. It's everywhere now, you know? I mean, hell, even at school, kids are spending much more time on the computer doing social media stuff than actually doing schoolwork. Now, granted, you had the same thing when you had online video games and stuff like that, but it is very alarming to see how children nowadays are really antisocial. And I've read cases to where they won't eat, they can't even, what's the term I'm looking for? Interact. They can't even interact with people in person. You know, I swear to God, I am not making this stuff up. I can't remember all the articles I've read to like link them in the description box or anything like that, but I've read stories and I've heard stories where that has happened. That whole internet thing, for any of you all who watch South Park, you remember the episode where the internet went missing? There was no more internet, and Stan's sister had the pen pal that she could only communicate with online, and when they met in person, they didn't even know how to act around each other. Yeah. Was it funny? Funny. It was, yeah, it was funny. But that's not too far from some things that have actually happened. And then, I mean, come on, man. Social media, you also run into all the other problems as far as communicating with people that you would, like dating websites, you know, catfishing and stalkers and all that jazz. Yeah. That carries over into social media too. Trolling and all that stuff that would happen on like forums and chat rooms, that carries over into social media too. So what I'm saying is, to kind of wrap this video up, social media has its positives and it has its negatives. What I'm saying is, in regards to that final comment in the topic, I don't think it's really fair to just automatically write it off as a bad thing, because it can be used in very positive ways, and it is a very positive tool. Once again, what do I always say when I'm talking about media and people and how they use it? I mentioned it when I talked about video games. I mentioned it in my parenting and censorship video. I've mentioned it so many times. What do I always say? It all comes down to the responsibility of the user. I also mentioned it in my online piracy video. It all comes down to the responsibility of the user. You see what I'm saying? Social media, like any other tool, bringing it as far back down to the sword. A sword can be a very powerful and very effective tool if it is used correctly. And if it's not, it can be one of the most destructive tools at someone's disposal. And social media, just like so many other technological advances, is the exact same way. It can be very good or it can be very bad. It all depends on the responsibility of the user. And so with that being said, that's going to wrap up this discussion of the week video. In the comments below, let me know your thoughts on this week's topic, as well as suggestions for next week's topic. And remember, thumb up the one you want to see me discuss next week. Later on, well, yeah, I've only got 2 more videos coming out later this week. That's the Game of Thrones review and the Vikings review. So, guys, keep an eye out for that. And with that being said, this has been Larry Williams, OAW Commander-in-Chief, signing off. And until next time, peace.